Morning, everybody. Welcome to First Church. I want to say a special hello to all of you on Zoom and all of you who will be watching this week on Facebook, YouTube, and any of our social platforms. We're a welcoming spiritual community. We're here and we're committed to transforming lives for empowered living. It's always good to see so many of you here. Every week, I'm told by the gentleman, Sazu, who's handling our social media account, that there's approximately 150 or 60 people signing in every week that are new to our platform. So that's very exciting for all of us. And I want to thank you all because I know a lot of you are inviting your friends. And if you want our e-letter, which usually has some spiritual gems and or reminds you of the times that we meet, simply send Jimmy your information, make sure we have it, and we will make sure each week you get an email and or a text message if you prefer. Our mission statement, what we do here, we're dedicated to teaching the teaching and helping people lift their consciousness. And we're reminding people of the power that they have at their disposal. The power that you have is within you. If you haven't heard that before, it's right here. Within you, you are, as we used to say, standing, or in this case, probably sitting on holy ground. One of our supporters this week sent me a story. In fact, people have sent me a couple stories for today. The first is a parable that I thought I'd share with you. Several times a year, we talk about how it's near impossible to change anyone. Raymond Charles Barker, who was our founder, was here in New York City in the late 40s. Had a very popular talk one Sunday, which he was a marketer, and the name of the talk was How to Change Someone. And as I've shared before, he had a huge audience that day, and everybody showed up because they all wanted to figure out how to change someone. And then the joke is when they came, he said, of course you can't. So we work on our own consciousness. We do our work, as we say, in mind. We do our work in consciousness. So a young man, one of our texts, Andrew, sent in a parable. It's got an important point that can start us off today. And I'm sure you've probably heard a version of it before. It involves a holy man who happens to be a monk and his apprentice. He was known to be a beloved, holy, wise, and well-respected monk who had for years the most miserable and grumpy apprentice, always following him around. And you could imagine it was a large monastery, and there were a lot of apprentices and younger monks in the monastery, and they're always wondering, why in the world would this elder keep this guy around who was so miserable? Why would he keep a miserable, grumpy, complaining person with him all the time? So one day, one of the apprentices, the younger monks, approached the wise elder and asked, why do you have such a miserable person who's complaining and who's so negative all around you all the time when you could have any one of us? And the wise old monk looked warmly at the young monk and he said, by having him around me all the time, I have a constant reminder to practice compassion, forgiveness, and patience. So there's some morals to this story. People are where they are. People are doing what they do. They're doing what they know. Louise used to say they're doing the best they can. As I look out at the audience today, I know all of you have family members, friends that you deal with, some of whom are not pleasant, some of whom are negative. The thing is, don't fight it. It's always an opportunity for you to practice and develop more compassion, more patience, more love, and more forgiveness. You have the power and the ability to see peace always, 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 instead of what it is that you're seeing. See, the power is always with you. I say that all the time. And I found a little quote that's attributed to Mark Twain. We're not sure if he actually said it. And he said, trying to change someone is like trying to teach a pig to sing. It always wastes your time and it annoys the pig. So we're here, and this is an exciting day because we get to talk about truth. We get to talk about the one power that's in everything and everyone and in you. That's an exciting thing to talk about. Think of the things you've talked about all week long. There is nothing that's exciting about talking about the fact that you're one with the one power, that you have within you everything you need to create everything you want. And you have the possibility of growing and evolving intentionally and moving past your past. You see, somewhere along the line, I'm learning in the classes and I learned in the classes that growth was inevitable. We're all going to grow. And growth is necessary to evolution. We can choose to adapt and align ourselves with life and grow consciously with awareness. We can do that. Or we can resist life, and we can resist spirit, and we can resist change. When we learn to know that life is moving forward, with us or without us, so to speak, it's really smart to start to let go, and as we used to say, let go and let God, or as Louise would say, to learn to say, I trust the process of life. If we do that, we're going to have a smoother ride. We will minimize unnecessary pain and suffering, and we'll have a much happier journey. We join together in our gatherings every single week, several times a week, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Thursday is our self-healing class, You Can Heal Your Life class. We join in all of our gatherings to be reminded that we're spiritual beings and we're ever evolving. It's what we're always doing. Whether we know it or not, we came into this life to grow and to expand and to express ourselves and not to be shut down and not to be small and play small. And for those of you who are listening on Facebook and YouTube later today or throughout the week, it's really wonderful that you found us. It's kind of a rare thing in a way that we teach. For those of you who hear it all the time, you say, oh, he's saying the same thing, blah, blah, blah. But what we're saying is really extraordinary in terms of what the world understands. So those of you who are here, try to tune in as often as you can. So we can't fix you, we can't fix anybody, but what we can do is we can teach you how to heal your life, how to improve your life, how to develop a much greater picture and vision that you can step into, because you can achieve your dreams. The bigger the vision you have, the better. So try to tune in wherever you can, and if you're hearing us on a rebroadcast, which many of you will be sure to send in your email and ask to join in and get our invitations, because in our live presentations, you'll have an opportunity to interact a little bit if you want to. We're all in this spiritual gathering together, and we're moving forward, as I suggested, individually, collectively, even if we don't necessarily want to move forward. Life is moving forward in us and through us, and once you start to get that understanding, it's like, okay, so life is moving forward. I don't want to suffer. I don't want pain. I really want to learn to move with it. So however you're connecting with us today, however you're listening now or a few days from now, know that we are all connected with you and to one another. Today there's a lot of themes running in this talk. When I looked at the talk, I thought Jimmy had printed 3 of them up, so we'll try to do the best we can. We'll be talking about consciously evolving. We always intend to lift our spirits and our consciousness whenever we come together. When we come together as a group, we create a collective energy that's really powerful, and it's wonderful to be around like-minded people. And then after the lesson, as I said, there's a wonderful opportunity if you'd like to share with some of our people. You'll hear people who'll talk about the things that they have overcome and how they're starting to live and see results from practicing knowing their worth and seeing the good. So I look forward to that part of our gathering because it shows people, it shows us how the teaching is working. Once we start to understand that we live in this creative energy, this power, and it's a part of us, we learn then how to confidently tap into it and use it. So there's power, simply stated, and you can use it. You don't have to get all holy and become purified or sanctified or anything like that. Those are old ideas that are remnants from other churches and belief systems. I was telling a friend just yesterday, she was joking to me about the holy cardinal, I think it was. And I told her there's nobody any more holy on planet Earth than she is. See, that probably caused her to think a little bit. You know, there's nobody any more holy than you. And you might think, my goodness, you don't know what I've done. The fact is, each of us are individualizations of this spirit. And you are whole. You are valuable. And there's no one more valuable than you are. So if you're thinking you're less than, and you're esteeming this great, person, your worth is established in the universe. I don't usually use the word God so much because I want you to understand that God is immanent, God is within you, operating through you. Your value, your worth is beyond calculation. You are sitting on holy ground. You are one with it. You are one with spirit. I try to drop the male pronouns and have you understand it's always bigger than any anthropomorphic idea of God. It's this power, this energy, this love is in you, operating through you, and you're it. You are, as Raymond Charles Barker said, the whole bit. So let us remember today, you have this power, and everyone has this power, whether they know it or not. And I want everyone today to know deeply that this power acts and it acts upon your thoughts, your feelings, and your intentions. You might say that to yourself. This power within me is always acting on my thoughts. The first 4 chapters of our textbook tell us what it does, how to use it more effectively, so that we can manifest our desires and do so more quickly. You can't lose with this teaching, or as Reverend Ike used to say, with the stuff we use. In fact, there will be a quickening for you, and you will avoid a lot of unnecessary pitfalls and pain if you understand how it works. If you surrender all the dead wood, if you do that, your success is assured. Long ago, I remember being told, we all get home. And I used to think, well, what do they mean by that? The thing is, we're all evolving in light and love, and we're all healing. And, our success is assured. And I believe this is true because life brings us lesson after lesson, incredible lessons. But it doesn't have to be so painful. I'll say that to you also. Misery is optional. Ernest Holmes said suffering is not God ordained. So a lot of the things that we experience in terms of suffering and pain aren't necessarily inevitable. You could lighten your load tremendously by letting go and developing more trust. I know some of you on this call, really are in tune with this teaching and you want to live a happier, more purposeful life, and you definitely can. If you want to move forward more dynamically and take this teaching to a much higher place, you can, you definitely can. You will if you want to. I'll give you a list today, something you can work on. Usually I keep this list for one of my classes. I can give you 15 or 16 things that generally trip up a lot of people. The list of things that trip people up and prevent or at least delay people from manifesting all the good things that are waiting for you. You see, you're going to get to where you want to go eventually. As I said before, life is always moving forward. Gibran used to say, Life is longing for itself. It never tarries with yesterday. You might be caught up in yesterday and what it used to be like when you were younger, or what your church was, or what the economy was, or what it was. If you do that, it's kind of a form of self-sabotage every time you go and do that. Life is here. It's in the now, and it's going forward. And if you can reorient your thinking, it'll help you tremendously. If we always go back to what it was in the old days. I listen to people do it all the time. I kind of shake my head because I don't want to make them wrong. But I'm knowing that it'd be much better if we could be in the now and looking forward to an exciting future. So there's about 15 or 16 things. I said I would give you the list that slow people down. And if you can minimize these things that operate through most of us, or if you can eliminate them, you will see your affirmations, your affirmative prayers demonstrate more rapidly. There will be a quickening. You won't even know who you are if you can start to work with these things. See, I oftentimes talk about Benjamin Franklin because he had the first self-help book, and he said, assume a virtue if you have it not. That works for me. It's a wonderful idea. If you keep assuming a virtue and you're practicing it and you're having it, you're going to see demonstrations and results. But now we'll talk about the things that people do to trip themselves up. And the only way I can say to stop that stuff is to become what I think it was Florence Scovel Shinn who said, you have to become the guardian at the gate. The only person who can stop doing this is you. I can't. I can talk to you about it, but that's really doing the work. So here they are. I know you know them anyway, but for anyone that happens to be new, or you need or possibly needs a reminder, if there's any anger operating within you, it's working against you. Resentment, hatred, if you're holding a grudge, if you're jealous about anything or anyone, if you have envy, if you're greedy, if you're fearful, if you're worried about anything, these are the things you want to stamp out, release, get rid of. If you're filled with doubt, judgment, using that word should too much, wherever you use it, someone's wrong, yourself or somebody else, where there's blame, where you're caught up in self-doubt, worry, guilt, shame, perfectionism, control, where you have expectations that have to be a certain way, or attachments, which really means the same thing, resistance, you're just unwilling to do anything different, and you're just, whenever you're doing that, or, every week we talk about negative self-talk, that conversation. If that conversation's in the pits, and you're negative, you can't find it in your soul to say a positive thing, if you're always doing ain't it awful and poor me, or if you're gossiping about people and, instead of being the cheerleader that we teach, if you're gossiping, you're talking about what's wrong or what's missing with people, any of that, critical thinking, self-criticism, these are the things that trip people up all the time. And there's more, of course. Those are the ones I could just put together and I usually use in a class. These are the things that will stop people from experiencing a life of bliss and spontaneously demonstrating their vision. Because if you're seeing love and you're seeing the positive aspects of which, if you're seeing, I talk about Edwina Gaines because she used the word God and good synonymously. If you're seeing the God and the good in every encounter, in every person, where you have compassion like the monk, his practice with the grumpy apprentice was to keep, everything teaches us, in that story, the monk is seeing the good. It's teaching him patience and compassion. See, if you're that person who has the teaching and you're living the teaching, you don't have to worry about that list of negatives because you're already doing it. But most of us live with aspects of that list, and it takes people sometimes years to grow out of those states of consciousness, and to grow spiritually, to get to a point where they refuse to be offended. That's a great line. I refuse to be offended. You know, you can be that person. Or from the four agreements where you get to a point where you're not going to take anything personally. Not a damn thing. You're not going to take anything personally because you're going to know. Here's life, and here's the people that I know, and this is what's happening, and I'm not going to take it personally. People are doing the best they can with the consciousness that they have. I'm in the perfect place, perfect time with what I know, and I'm learning. And I let go of all these states of consciousness. You can be the guardian at the gate, and you don't have to be living in those states that I just reviewed. If you need that list, ask Jimmy. He'll get it for you. I think it needs to be edited a little bit, but we certainly have it. Now, there's people who have absolutely no willingness to look at these qualities. And what they're going to do is, instead, they're going to see those qualities and project them on everybody they live with. Everything's wrong with everybody else, but nothing's wrong with me. That's the way it usually works. I have friends who call me and talk to me about everything's wrong with everybody else and there's nothing wrong with them. You know, you just shake your head, because what can you say, right? You know, we project it on people, and we don't realize the world that we're looking at is a reflection of the way we see. You know, did you get that? The world that we're looking at is a reflection of the way we see. If you're seeing through the lenses of loveliness and love and light and all that, you're not caught up in seeing all that other stuff. The good news is you're all smart enough, and you're here, and you can move through many and all of these negative states of consciousness very quickly if you want to. If you're longing for more, if you're longing for change, that's really the universe in your soul that's really wanting to step out of all that muckety-muck and junk. And, you know, Holmes says there's power for good in the universe and you can use it. Well, you're using it is just stepping out of all that stuff. And it seems like it's a lot, but it really isn't. Louise Hay, it's all said profoundly, it's all very simple, and it is. It helps a lot to be a part of a group like this, because we're like-minded people, and we're always constantly reminding ourselves of the power and the potential that we have. And because it's really easy to get off track, I promise you. It happens to me daily. And as soon as it does, my job is to get on track ASAP, as soon as possible. As we come together in our gatherings, we are immersing ourselves in something very different than what's out there in the world. We have lived in that, all of us. We know what that is. Some of you have called it the rat race. Jimmy calls it something else, action and reaction. When we're out there, we realize it's a never-ending cycle of striving for validation from others, and often it's a quest for material possessions, and where people are comparing themselves, their bodies, their possessions, and every other thing. They're always comparing themselves to where someone is, and they're never feeling like they're in the right place or that they're enough or that they have enough. And Louise Hay said the bottom line for everybody is, I don't feel like I am enough. I don't feel like I do enough. So if you're caught up in all of that, you could, if you wanted to, step out of it. And you join with us, and we're going to tell you that you are a miracle, that you're whole, complete. You know, your worth is established in the universe, in the mind of God, and there's nothing better than you. And you may not believe that about yourself. But, you know, people out there are chasing after it's like a mirage. They're always chasing something that's just out of reach, and it's never going to satisfy them. What was it Snickers used to say? Snickers satisfies you. You know, you're out there chasing things that will never, ever, ever satisfy you. So when you're living in the world in that way, it leads to a constant feeling of lack and loss. And all of these things bring stress and anxiety. And, you know, you get to middle age and you realize, geez, I don't have the things I want. I don't have the love I want. You know, and you know your life is like a mess. And it doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to live with that stress, that anxiety. You don't have to be at a place where you're not able to appreciate the present moment. You don't have to live in a place where you're never really happy with yourself. Many of you have already started to realize, or you wouldn't be here. So if you're here, it symbolizes, it suggests that you're longing for more and you want to live a different kind of way. So most, or many of you have already started, and you recognize the insanity of all of this, and you're shifting your focus towards inner growth, knowing that you already have the power, the presence within you, and you're trying to learn how to nurture it and trust it more. And you're learning to, as you rely on it, you're learning to see you can demonstrate just about anything you want once you get clear and you get rid of the stuff that's preventing you from having those demonstrations. So I want all of you to realize with me, this moment right now is a holy moment that you're living in, and everything good is possible. I want you to think about that. In this moment, everything good is possible. Take note of that list that I read a few minutes ago. You know, the negatives, right? Be resolved to let all that stuff go into the nothingness from whence it came, as the old timers used to say. So you can be fully present in beautiful, powerful moments, free of all that stuff. You know, it can be done in a twinkling of an eye. Usually doesn't work that way. Usually people struggle with it, but you know, the struggle part is really unnecessary. Once you get clear that that stuff does not work and that stuff gets in your way of being and living the kind of life you want, you'll be amazed how quickly you can shift gears and let go of, you know, a lot of it. And yes, some of it will creep in here and there, but you can release the need for it, and you can keep just saying, I am a being of light and love, and I see God, I see good in every encounter. You can have a consciousness, again, namaste, that's the greeting that says, the divinity in me salutes the divinity in you. You can live that way. You can live the way where you are preoccupied with seeing the God and the good. There's always been a few throughout history who have had this kind of understanding. And you can have this kind of understanding and you can start to practice it, living what I call the affirmative life. Most people are in what we call separation. I don't talk about that as much as I used to. If you're in separation, you've got this consciousness going of them and us, or you and me, God's above, and you know, everything's separate, okay? When you come into this teaching after a while, you're gonna really understand the word of oneness. My third year of studies, I think that's all we talked about for 18 months. The idea of one power, one love, one energy, everywhere present, in everyone and all the time. So, the word separation again. Most people live in what we call separation. And they talk all the time about everybody. And they're forgetting the people they're talking about are individualizations of spirit doing the best they can. And these folks are living in reaction to everything. And they're not realizing that they could see the presence, they could see the peace, they could see peace instead of what they're seeing. The choice is always up to you. It's entirely up to you. You could see loveliness, you could see peace, if you wanted to. Or you get to be right. You can say this person's a crappy person, horrible person. You can judge everything and everyone. You can do that, but I'm gonna tell you something. You know, that's a treacherous path. Because if you're keeping on seeing what's wrong and what's missing, you know, your life is gonna shape up in a way that you're going to have lots of experiences and lessons that you could avoid. But the choice, again, is up to you. It reminded me of the story of the two wolves. I have my different stories for you today. I'm sure many of you have heard it before. I've told it. I tell it usually once or twice a year. So here it is. It's an old Cherokee tale. It's called The Story of Two Wolves. I think I had a screen on it. I don't know if I do. But an old Cherokee was teaching his grandson about life. And a fight is going on inside me, the boy said to his father. It's a terrible fight, and it's between two wolves. One is evil. He's angry. He's envious. He has sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego, he continued. So remember that list I told you like 10 minutes ago. The one wolf has all this negative stuff going on. And then he continued, and the other wolf is good. He's filled with joy and peace and love and happiness, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. And then he said, the same fight is going on inside you, and also inside every other person as well. The grandson thought about it for a while, and then he asked his grandfather, well, which one of these wolves will win? And the old Cherokee simply replied to his grandson, the one that you feed. So that's a timeless lesson. We have so much power available to us. You know, I don't care if you're 22 or you're 82, you have power within you to do amazing things right now. You know, you might think, I can't do this, I can't do that, this door is shut, that door is shut, you know, I'm rejected, I'm dejected, those are all horrible stories to be entertaining, but this is what people do. And you have within you everything to change everything around. The power you have is limitless, and you forget that. You know, when people start talking to me on the phone of everything that's wrong and missing, I listen, but I know it's not, in other words, they're tripping, they're telling a story. You know, you have everything within you to move forward. So we have so much power within us. The question would be, what's your commitment? Where do you want to go? What's your vision? What's your idea? Where are you going to put your time and your attention? Are you going to pick up that phone and talk to that same person who's always negative with you? Are you going to watch the same old terrorizing stuff on TV? What are you going to do? So we can practice. We do practice. We learn to live the affirmative life here. We learn to see the good, the God. We learn to see the joy, the wonder in life, the perfection in people. Instead of seeing what's wrong, try seeing what's good. Try that for a while. Our teaching talks about the power that we have as individuals. Society tries to keep everything be the same. You might remember the pressure you felt as a young person to please your family and your friends. Mama will love you if you do this. Grandma will love you if you do that. You know, the whole thing is you had to do something to be okay. And we've done versions of that throughout our lives. You came into this world to find you, to express you, or as the younger people would say, to find and do me. We're come here to discover what we're here to express and to do, and many of us never have done that. We've just always trying to fit in and be acceptable, and we're still trying to live up to the standards that were given to us as kids. So we got to do it differently. No, I'll say that again. You don't have to do it differently. You can do it any way you want to. But if you want to grow and you want to evolve, I suggest that you focus on learning to love yourself and express yourself authentically and knowing that you have the power. And as you do this, you will continue to care for others, love for others, but you will do it authentically. You will be loving yourself first. You're here to find your dream. You're here to find your vision. You're here to get clear about what you're here to do and move toward it. And if you don't have a vision, I don't care whatever age or place you are, maybe your vision is to have better health. Maybe your vision is to have greater friendships. Maybe you want to accomplish something different. Any and all of it is good. You know, take the time and take the pause to get clear about what you're here to do and what will bring you joy. Here's the thing, whether you're willing to change or whether you're not willing to change, life is going to evolve anyway. Changes will happen. I've always told you, anyone who's listened, I prefer to work with it, align myself with it. One day, if you take the classes, you'll start reading Ralph Waldo Emerson, and I'm going to paraphrase for you one of his famous ideas. He said, society often pressures us to conform and fit in with it, to fit in what's popular, or I'll say today, what's trending. Instead of encouraging people to embrace their individuality and unique ideas and express them, society wants you to conform. Your family might want you to conform. Sadly, the most highly valued trait in society is often conformity, or fitting in with what others are saying and doing. Many of us have been trying to fit in all our darn lives to be acceptable for someone, our parents or some girlfriend, boyfriend, or our employers, and everyone else. Emerson suggested society tends to resist or dislike people who are self-reliant and who think for themselves. Society prefers things to be the same and familiar, traditional and established, rather than new and innovative ideas. But the future's always been with those who are the thinkers, the ones who have innovative ideas, and everybody resists them, but they're the ones that lead ultimately. People who sing their own song and who are brave enough to live their own lives and follow their dreams and their visions, oftentimes they get challenged. Some of you I know are like that, and you get challenged. Society can sometimes discourage people from being their true selves and embracing their creativity in favor of following the crowd. Henry David Thoreau said something very similar to Emerson. He said, if you're following your vision, your dream, and it's different from your companions, and you're not keeping pace with them, perhaps it's because you're listening and hearing a different drummer, something within you that's spurring you on. And he encouraged us to step up to that music and hear what you hear and follow that inner guidance, no matter how far away. The world of separation, again, most people live with it. It's a very different way than what we're talking about here at the center. People who live in separation view human beings and everything else in existence as separate from one another. They see people as isolated and disconnected from one another, and they believe in a higher power sometimes, and it's out there somewhere. If you're in separation, you're forgetting your connection with the source within you, the indwelling presence. And sometimes you can feel cut off from God or good, and then all those negatives come in: fear, lack, bitterness. You might think it's me against the world and all of that type of thing, and life is hard and poor me, and that you're alone and you're unsupported. And then you have versions of ain't it awful and poor me, and that type of consciousness creeps in more and more. You believe life to be a struggle or a veil of tears and all of that. Have your thoughts gotten like that lately? Is a question for everybody. Have you noticed that you've been more negative than you'd like to be, more critical? If you're caught up in any of that, I've already told you, there is another way. Tune in with us early, late, and often as much as you can. And we're going to keep reminding you to take a pause and listen and be still and know that you are in fact God's. You are inlets and outlets of God consciousness, divine energy. If you stay in a consciousness of separation, you're going to start to believe it's too late, and you're going to start to be, many people go towards depression, and you won't think that you can make your life better, and you can, but you won't think that you can. Many people in the world, that's like the people out there living that way, feel displaced, they feel unwanted, worthless, and worse. Not knowing that they possess power, and they're not in touch with that potential that was in them. It's important to remember that if you were in such a place where you are disconnected and separated, those negative thoughts and feelings, beliefs are not the truth of who you are, but rather they're a product of limited perspective, negative thinking, and past conditioning or experience. And I will probably wind up closing on this note today. We are always free, every single moment of every day, we're always free to start again. It's never too late to start your day over. We're always free to start again. Our broadcasts have been a lifeline to many people. We get all the comments. many dozens every week. Our broadcasts have been a lifeline to many people to help bring them back to a place where they remember there is something great and magnificent within each and every one of you. And our broadcasts and our lessons help people understand that each and every one of you are valuable and so very important. As we learn to connect or reconnect with the oneness of life and embrace our true nature as spiritual beings, we can then begin to shift our thoughts and beliefs towards love, abundance, and our infinite potential. Once you are out of any sense of separation, and you know that you're infinitely supplied and supported, you can begin to accomplish amazing, amazing things.